What is good? Zaelia from Echo here, and today I am tasked with an adventure. And this adventure is running a dungeon with 0 add-ons, nothing. So I went in today with Maris and Gingy. I disabled all my add-ons. I moved my player frame a bit, my target frame a bit, and my party frames a bit, but that's about it. And I can safely say after this, I am madly in love with my UI, and I don't know what I would do without it. Right off the bat, I am already mortified. I see no cooldowns on my party frames. I have no idea what is ready, what isn't ready. Another major thing that I apparently cannot live without is the way that LVY tracks holy power. The standard holy power tracker is very small, and it's not, it's very artsy, it's not very practical, because the first 3 holy powers, sure, they're big, but then there's like 2 small little nuggets at the bottom for 4 and 5. So you really need to focus on your holy power bar to know exactly how much holy power you have, rather than just 5 squares the way LVY presents it. Another thing that I am dearly missing when I was playing with no add-ons is just something as simple as my wings uptime. A little weak aura with an icon and a timer spinning around, showing me my uptime on my wings, so I don't have to look top right. And I have a big icon, so I know exactly how many hammers I can cast, when I need to throw my last hammer to extend that duration on the wings. Same thing with Holy Avenger, basically any buff on myself. Whenever I bubble, I love to see a big bubble icon, so I know when I can stand in the fire and when I need to dip it, or dip out. It's just the small, tiny, simplest weak auras. They really do a lot. And now, when we were fighting this Executioner Varut, the only thing I saw on my frames was a Grievous Wound and the Mortal Strike debuff. So whenever someone was charged and had the Bleed debuff, could be Maris as well, our tank, I just couldn't see it. It just simply would not show, because there were already too many debuffs on the target, the Mortal Wound, and the Grievous. That's huge, by the way. For some reason, it's massive, the Grievous tick. I don't know why Blizzard decided to make it that big. Maybe it's my settings that are weird and bad when it comes to a standard UI. But in my opinion, there are way more important things than showing the Grievous. And a disaster happened here on the pole on the left. So we walk into the pole, and there are multiple debuffs going on in this pack. The Collector gives the magic debuff that needs to be instantly dispelled, but the icon is so small that I didn't see it initially. And then I also get a curse on top of having Grievous Wounds, so the curse overlapped the magic debuff. So I just had a debuff ticking away at my HP 20% per second or more, and I couldn't even see it. And then I end up going down to the curse exploding. That's another thing, we didn't get a decurse, but that's the main issue is I didn't dispel the magic debuff because I just simply couldn't see it. So I think what I'm trying to get at, where the most important parts are, simply, you need a way to track your holy power well. You need a way to track your buffs well, like Avenging Wrath, and you need a way to see at least the spellable debuffs in a way where they always have the priority. You never ever want to be in a scenario that I was just in and ended up dying to, where there was a sneaky debuff on me, which is the most important one, that was just simply not visible on my screen. So when it comes to UI, it is the eternal battle of visibility versus information. Like, do you want to be able to see what's going on around you on the ground, or do you want more information, your cooldowns, your party's cooldowns, the cooldown of the mobs and everything. You can basically track so much these days that you can fill up your entire screen and not even see the ground beneath you. So you gotta choose. And in my opinion, I think my UI in general is quite focused on visibility. I have all my cooldowns at the bottom of my screen, and on the right, basically pretty much standard UI, standard Blizzard UI when you log in. And it's just what I'm used to. My eyes naturally know where all of my cooldowns are. So I have a flow, let's say, you can say, of my eye movement that allows me to know my cooldowns at all times, basically, even though they're not in the middle of my screen, because I'm just, let's say, trained to look in certain places at certain times, and then I just have a general overview. The same way, if you're an experienced driver, you don't necessarily turn your head like you would do in your driver's test every time you have to turn left or right. You just have an overview because you are looking at your mirrors all the time and such. And I feel like when it comes to your own cooldowns, it is very much a personal thing where as long as you know where it is and you know what to look for, you don't need to have them in the middle of your screen, especially the long cooldowns. So if you ask me, I'm definitely a big fan of visibility, knowing exactly what the mobs around you are doing and your teammates. I like to keep the information on my screen to a minimum. Basically only what I need and things that I can play around, like my party members' cooldowns on, for example, Turtle. So I know when Gingy can immune a mechanic, so I don't have to worry about it. If a mage has auto time ready or ice block, it's very important for me to play around that, so I don't necessarily waste my resources. Other than that, there is all of the tank stuff that I usually track. I don't have as much on the monk because I don't generally play with the monk tanks in the MDI. So you will see I basically track nothing of mirrors because I didn't really set it up yet. But in general, the tank, if there's a Demon Hunter tank, I always track meta. I track Felt Devastation, his trinkets, basically everything that I can play around and plan my cooldowns accordingly, like Blessing of Sacrifice or anything. It's good to have a bit of information on the tank so you know when to use your lay on hands. Otherwise you're going to end up overlapping your long cooldowns, especially on a paladin. So even though you can technically always benefit from more visibility on the screen, giving you more of an overview of what's going on, I definitely think there is a minimum amount of information that you need, such as the tank's cooldowns, your team's defensive cooldowns, and also your own rotational Avenging Wrath, maybe the cooldown on your Light Hammer. Some people that play the Paladin choose to have the short cooldowns like Crusader Strike, Judgment, Hammer of Wrath, Holy Shock in the middle of the screen, and I can absolutely, I can let's say recommend that if you're new to the class, having those like a couple of seconds to 15-second cooldowns in the middle of your screen to always keep up with your rotation, especially early on when learning the class, is super duper helpful. Because sometimes you get distracted, some people are losing HP, and then all of a sudden you're pressing the wrong rotation, you're losing, let's say, value out of your class. But I've been playing this game for so long, I just simply cannot change the way I play. I always look at my bars at the bottom or on the right for my cooldowns, and in the end, you just learn it quite naturally what pedals to press. It's not like you're driving a car and you don't know where, when to press the speeder and whatnot. For me, I like to build a sort of a natural rotation, muscle memory kind of thing, and then focus more on my team and what's going on around me. So maybe I miss, let's say, a Crusader Strike here and there, but in general, I value knowing exactly what's going on with the pole and my teammates rather than the perfect Crusader Strike rotation. I like to think that I can do both, of course, but especially if you're new to the class, having those short cooldowns in the middle of your screen, let's just say it's going to speed up your learning curve. It's going to help you achieve, let's say, the perfect rotation much faster. But when it comes to organizing your screen space, it is very much your own preference. You look at the screen differently than I do, probably. Your let's say resting position with your eyes are gonna be maybe higher up than me, maybe to the side or lower. It also depends how you sit in real life compared to your monitor, right? So when it comes to organizing your screen, as long as you keep everything nice and compact, I think you're good to go. So the biggest challenge running the no add-on was basically I lost all sense of when we're okay and when we're not okay. I had no sense of why the damage or why everybody was losing HP. I wasn't tracking the casts. I had no bigwigs making bing noises when something bad was happening and I need to divert my attention. I was missing all of that. But one thing I did notice with the no add-on run is that the in-game sounds are actually designed in a way to give you that sense of what's going on. And I hadn't really noticed that because we always just kind of listen to the big wigs, right? The weak auras. We have our own little thingies, but apparently you can simply enable game sounds and it will give you a sense of what's going on too. Buffing other people, like getting an innovate, your wings proccing, you hear it, you give sacrifice to the tank is going to hear it. You know, it's quite interesting. I will, however, say I of course prefer to be able to tailor what sounds that I hear for certain things. So in-game sounds are cool, but it's probably a lot more efficient if you were to set up your bigwigs properly and a weak aura here and there to give you basically small hints that your attention needs to be diverted, and just a quick attention priority swap is basically what the sounds are for. And I think the strange thing with how everything is designed these days, dungeons and raids, is it does feel a lot like the difficulty of bosses and the way mechanics are designed. Basically, they expect you to have some sort of boss mod, some sort of timer, just a lot of things to divert your attention. I don't think Blizzard does a good enough job on its own to really tell you how to play a fight, if that makes sense. A lot of it is not that intuitive anymore. The mechanics are very complicated, to the point where if you don't have the add-on, well, then you are just at a massive disadvantage. This was an interesting experiment, and I learned a lot about the small little flaws in my own UI, but also the big, massive flaws of not having a great UI. It can be a massive detriment to not have, not only not have the information you need, but also if you have too much information, it can drown out all the important parts that you need. A great example is the Blizzard UI having a massive grievous wounds debuff that just covers up everything else happening on a pole. Disaster. So we need to avoid those, when building our UIs and thinking about what is important and what isn't. But anyway, I'm out of here. Thank you so much for watching. All the add-ons that I use in this video are going to be listed below, and you can download all of those on the Curseforge app that I also use to keep everything up to date. It's super duper easy to navigate. Can recommend. Yeah, I think that's it. Thank you for watching, and I wish you a continued great UI building session.